I've been so moved by how different it is here. And
And the place that is important to me is my aunt's farm in rural Wisconsin. And I spent time there when I was a little kid.
I've just gone backpacking a few days ago on the Wallowa Mountains. I've been there a lot and feel very comfortable going back there, and the smells are very comfortable. And I grew up in Northeast Oregon, and yeah, I think that's my place.
Very rural area like this, wooded like this, several acres, and we're just starting to learn what that means. We are enjoying seeing all of the wildlife.
I think my aunt's cabin in Michigan is probably at least the special place that's furthest from here, where it's on Lake Michigan, in a cabin that my uncle built, and on a 100-foot dune, and so it's just similar to echoing your experience. I don't remember ever having a boundary or border of where I could and couldn't go.
Doing these runs, and I was a short distance runner, being for so long, and there was this summer where my teammate and I would go to this specific part of the park, and I got up to 3-hour runs, and we would just talk and run through these like trails that went for miles and fields that got your socks wet, and you know, like that initial feeling was always terrible, and we would start at 6:30 in the morning and like bring in the sun. And so anyway, it's a very special place.
It's very windy, and you go from canyons to reservoirs, and it's an area that's changed a lot in the last year and a half, and I haven't been down there since the big change, so I'm really looking forward to see those changes in habitat, and I've heard that over 1 billion seeds have been planted so far.
Actually very difficult for me, as I grew up in a city. So, but thinking about it, I think what Andy said, like the first, like, you know, one of the first places where I actually felt free, it was in my husband's family house in the UK, in Cornwall, where you have like, it's just the calmness and like, you know, like it's this.
And I grew up outside of Portland, so going from the Portland landscape to the high desert landscape was just transformative.
Almost a year ago, last October, and it was like nowhere else I've ever been in terms of the light, which completely, the light and the latitude both just totally throw off all sense of direction and time.
And a fifth. By the bridge over Jordan Creek, just shy of the Idaho border, the drainage of the Ojai River, a crumpled adolescent porcupine leers up almost maniacally.
you know, Minnesota, Sioux City, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska. There's something fascinating to me about the movement of animals and the movement of animal feed that is really complicit in the road system of this country and how we move goods and animals around from place to place. Herd here grazing beside the road on local greens. Right, chickens are incredible.
I love it.
The higher talent.
It's the music, you know.
I'm so afraid I'm gonna get
We only have one,
shirt.
so we don't have that noise.
Sorry, these are always slightly awkward because they're so embroidered in your handwriting.
So you want us to stay in there?
So who has the story? I will pass you the bone tool. This is the first bone tool I ever made. This is made out of an elk bone leg, an elk leg bone, and it's dyed with indigo.
We were driving on a backcountry road and a little rabbit ran out. And I heard the driver going, oh, and he wanted to not hit it, but there was a car coming the other way, and there was a car behind us, and everybody in the car tensed up a little bit.
In third grade, I was playing outside the house, like along the road, with two boys, like two friends of mine, and we came across a cat that had been hit by a car, and it was my sister's cat. And why am I getting emotional? But I remember I was with these two boys, and they started laughing and talking about how the cat was mangled, and I remember I got so angry, and I yelled at them, and I was like, this is my sister's cat. And I ran back and told my mom, and they had to come and take her. And I was like I just remember how angry I felt. And then like years later, I'm driving with my mom, and she all of a sudden swerves. And I was like, what are you doing? She was like, there was a butterfly. And I was like, what are you doing? You're gonna kill us. And I was like angry in a different way, but I was like, this is like amazing.
I grew up on the coast of Maine. My father was the captain of a Coast Guard station in the little town that we lived in. And my mom and I would kind of spend our days walking along the rocky coast and stuff. And it got to be a habit where, and that's a different kind of verge, I think. I think it's between sort of the place where people have built up homes to this rocky coast to this kind of inland seaway. We'd been walking along, and almost every time we would walk along this very rocky coast, we would come across a dead seal or a sea lion or something that we would call my dad's office, and they would come and pick it up and clean it up.
Undercarriage of the car, there's a hole, and there's the head of a starling is hanging out, just peacefully dead. And I got under there and took it out. It was completely dead, but it was completely not mangled at all. Just like this beautiful specimen. So I have lots of really great photos of that. It's made it into many drawings, and but yeah, that was just something that was just like, it kind of struck me, that the sight of this beautiful bird head hanging out above the car. And so I took it out and gave it a nice resting spot. I'm going to go, may all living things be wild, may all living things be safe.
May all living things be wild, may all living things be safe.
And it still is wild. Its body still shifts and shapes and moves as a snake moves. It was so recently dead that if rigor mortis hadn't set in, it still was articulating. But working with that animal was a really powerful element.
And we would sometimes move it, sometimes go look at it, because it might be something you've never seen before. Or
this is the quietest that we've had. I love the accompaniment of the chickens.
you're all biologists and ecologists who want to see living, not dead things at the same time as chance. And then,
I think about that cat forever. His name is Mowgli.
Nature of the Verge. It's so appropriate.